A lot of Muslim Americans say they are fearful these days. Could it be traced back to this moment from the 2016 campaign?
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Here's CNN's Stephanie Elam now with more.
Since last week's tide-shifting election, messages of hate, some invoking President-elect Donald Trump's campaign rhetoric, have emerged across the nation.
We won. Now get your ISIS-loving family out of this country, or we will do it ourselves and make America great again.
The day after Trump won, a Muslim family in a Seattle suburb found this threatening letter at their home.
We are American. We are Muslim.
The man and his wife have lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years. Their children were all born here.
America great because this country have allowed a lot of good, knowledgeable people to come here to make America great.
The son who found the letter shredded it, but not before taking a picture. He was afraid it would scare his parents. The father says he is not afraid, but remains vigilant. And above all, he wants to protect the most important person in his life, his wife.
Nothing gonna happen to her while I'm here. But I'm worried that she will be hurt. She stays at home most of the day. I don't want her to be scared.
Do you think that Donald Trump should take some of the blame for the behavior that we've seen across the country?
Yeah, he should take some of the blame. He should actually become a president of all Americans. This is his responsibility. If you want to make this country continue to be strong, and #1 country in the world, you cannot bring this weapon down. The strongest weapon you have, being diverse.
Trump addressed the spate of threats and assaults, telling Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes.
To those people,
I would say don't do it. That's terrible, because I'm going to bring this country together.
they're harassing Latinos, Muslims.
I am so saddened to hear that, and I say stop it. If it helps, I will say this, and I'll say it right to the camera, stop it.
This man hopes the person who wrote the letter will see this and come talk with him.
And I will defend the value of America all the time, and the value of being Muslim all the time. Ignorance usually creates fear, and fear creates hatred. And hatred creates violence, and violence creates more hatred. And we're going to be continuing this cycle until we break it with knowledge.
And find common ground in love of country. Now, it's interesting to note that this man tells me that he's lived in the United States longer than in any other country, and that he saw America from a different perspective when he lived in Utah. At the time, it was around 9/11, and he said right after that, the people in his neighborhood rallied around his family, made sure that they knew that they were welcomed, and he said that their family received so many gifts, Don, that they didn't even have a place to put them all. That said, I should also point out that he has also felt from the community where they live now that some people have come to say that this is not who we are better than this, and that you are welcomed as well, despite this one letter he's received.
Stephanie, thanks. I really appreciate that. Up next, two Muslim Americans with very different viewpoints on this issue. Let's discuss now the rising fears among Muslims in America with Dean Obeidallah, the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM, and Saba Ahmed, the founder of the Republican Muslim Coalition. Good evening to both of you. Saba, I want to begin with you. How much responsibility should Donald Trump, the president-elect, claim for these hateful incidents around the country, many of them directly invoking his name?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's Donald Trump's fault that a lot of protests are going on. I think a lot of people were scared into voting for Clinton, especially in our Muslim community. I think we need to accept the fact that Donald Trump is our president and come to terms with his presidency and support him, and in whatever way we can. I think the best way for Muslims to engage in the future years is for us to get involved with his administration and get into cabinet level positions or high level agency positions to make a difference.
Perhaps you didn't understand the question, so I'll read it again. How much of responsibility should President-elect Donald Trump claim for these hateful incidents around the country, not the protests, that many are directly invoking his name? the ones that were just in the story about swastikas and so on, and people intimidating Muslims or people wearing
Donald
headscarves?
Trump has condemned such hateful rhetoric, and he has condemned hate crimes. I think obviously he could do more in coming out strongly against those of his supporters that are misusing his name to commit violent atrocities. But again, like I said, Muslims need to step up their efforts in terms of outreach to Republicans and to the general American public. I think Muslim Americans we don't need to play the victim games. We need to get involved in his administration and make a difference.
Dino Badala, Chris Kobach, a member of Trump's transition team, has suggested that the new administration could reinstate a national registry for immigrants from countries where terrorist groups were active. Is this constitutional?
As a former lawyer, I would say actually it probably is constitutional. It's only dealing with immigrants, not U.S. citizens. It is wrong. It is sending the message, frankly, Don, that any Muslim coming in is potentially dangerous. It's alarming. And Donald Trump at this campaign, let's be blunt, and I like Sabah a great deal, but Donald Trump has said Islam hates us. He said thousands of Muslims cheered on 9/11, lying about that, said that we hide terrorists allegedly in our midst. He said, I want surveillance of these people. I'm not even American. I'm these people. Those exact words, these people. Donald Trump needs to come out and say to these people who are committing acts of hate in his name that it's wrong. More than stop it, like he's talking to a child. Come out and say it's wrong. Before the election, there were mosques in Iowa and New Jersey defaced with the word Trump. Like the word Trump is becoming a modern-day swastika in itself to certain people on the far right of his base. So Donald Trump, come out. Be the president for all people. You want to do that? Get rid of Steve Bannon and come out and say this is wrong very clearly.
Kobach says that this is about geography and fighting terror, not an attack on religion. Does that make a difference to you, Sabah?
No, obviously, when you talk about religious discrimination, that goes into the realm of unconstitutional and illegal ideas. And I would hate to see anybody's civil liberties trampled in the name of national security. But at the same time, obviously, like I said, Muslim Americans need to step up their efforts in terms of their outreach to Trump. We have yet to have a meeting of Muslim leaders with the Trump administration. We've had some people meet with him individually, but I think it would be nice to see the Muslim American leadership step up and accept the president-elect and meet with him directly and raise their concerns and get him to speak for us.
Does it make a difference that he said that this is it's about geography and fighting terror and not about religion to you?
Well, he was talking about specifically the Syrian refugees, I think, in that realm. Okay. He's mentioned that, certain people coming in from certain state sponsors of terrorism should be monitored. And I think we already have many federal laws that ban visas from certain countries and for certain people, and we obviously don't want any further terrorism in this country. We do want to strengthen and vet every single person who's coming into the country with secure borders, with secure national security policies. Okay. But at the same time, we don't need to blame religion for it.
You know what? The idea that this is policy or not, I'm not sure. The idea the Muslim ban really wasn't policy. The Muslim ban of Donald Trump, which he has walked back, was clearly telling our fellow Americans that every Muslim is so potentially dangerous, I have to ban them all. That is scary. That's why we've seen a spike in hate crimes. That's why the FBI just came out with a report in 2015, 67% increase in hate crimes against Muslims. And I'm concerned it'll be worse. Now, if you can get Donald Trump to meet with Muslim American leaders, I think many of us will be happy to meet with him. He might not like the meeting, but we're going to push him hard on it. We're going to tell him, get rid of Steve Bannon, be inclusive, to acknowledge that you ginned up a hate of our community in ways I've never ever seen a politician
Sabah, before you respond, let me say this. Trump's transition team has denied that Trump has said anything about a Muslim registry. However, Trump offered a series of muddled responses, including to NBC late last year, saying he would implement that when asked what could Trump do to reassure Muslim Americans. So what do you say?
See, he said a lot of things during the campaign. Not all campaign rhetoric becomes law. And I think, we do need to step up our lobbying efforts here in Washington, D.C. if we really want to reach out to Trump. I mean, everybody in his administration is very accessible. And I would just urge the Muslim American community, instead of taking insult and instead of isolating ourselves, we need to step up and do our part in our outreach and be very respectful when we do meet with the president-elect and see him as an ally and how we can work together strategically for the next 4 to 8 years. We can't afford to ignore the new president. We have to accept him, and we must be willing, proactively in terms of our outreach.
Dean?
We're not, I don't know where you're getting this, that we're isolating ourselves from it. If Donald Trump wants to reach out to leaders in our community, acknowledge the mistakes he's made, apologize for demonizing our community, I think he might find some common ground. But let's be blunt about Steve Bannon. We've talked so much about the white supremacy or anti-Semitism on his website. He has given Steve Bannon, during his time at Breitbart, he's given the most vile anti-Muslim bigots a chance to write articles, including about you, Saba. Including about you, Saba. Bridget Gable wrote a horrible article about you. And he's let Pamela Geller write articles, Frank Gaffney. Gertz Wilder, a Dutch lawmaker, not even from America, who hates Muslims. He gave him a platform.
But these were all the people who helped him get elected, so he's not going to just get rid of them overnight.
Does that make it okay, though?
No, it doesn't, but we do need to step up our outreach. If we're not at the table, then we're going to stay at the menu. And we have to engage with his administration.
I've got to go. Thank you very much. We're out of time. I
you.
appreciate it. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.